This is a WMUR Commitment 2024 special in partnership with the New Hampshire Institute of Politics, Conversation with the Candidate. And now, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Hello and welcome to our Conversation with the Candidate series. I'm Adam Sexton and our guest this evening is Republican Vivek Ramaswamy. Tonight we'll be getting to know Mr. Ramaswamy and where he stands on key issues. At the start of our show, I'll be asking the candidates some questions, and then after a quick break, we'll have our studio audience ask their questions in a town hall format. But before we begin with that, let's take a quick look at the candidate's biography. Vivek Ramaswamy was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and after high school graduated from Harvard with a major in biology. A first-generation American, he went on to get his law degree from Yale while working at a hedge fund. He started a biotech company and oversaw the development of 5 drugs that would win approval from the FDA. Ramaswamy also wrote a New York Times bestseller called Woke Inc. Inside Corporate America's Social Justice Scam. Last year, he launched a new firm called Strive Asset Management. He believes in ending affirmative action, shutting down the Department of Education, and declaring economic independence from China. He's married to Dr. Apurva Tiwari Ramaswamy, has 2 children, and lives in Columbus, Ohio. Vivek Ramaswamy, thanks for joining us on Conversation with the Candidate.
It's good to be here.
So let's start off with a few questions from me. And you've been able to make a little bit of a splash so far in this primary, but at the top of the race, you've still got former President Donald Trump, and he appears to be strengthening his grip on, the control of the Republican Party and that support that he once had. So what's the argument you make to the GOP base that it's time for a change?
So look, there's 2 people going up right now in the polls. That's Donald Trump and myself. And I do think we need an outsider, not a professional politician. But for me, I'm going to go further with the America First agenda than Donald Trump did, because I'm doing it based on first principles and moral conviction, not vengeance and grievance. And what I say is America First does not belong to Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people of this country. And if we remember that, I think we can do in this country what Reagan did in 1980. He led us out of our last national identity crisis. I'm going to do the same thing in 2024. And I think to put America first, we actually need to rediscover what America is. And as the first ever millennial to run for U.S. president as a Republican, I think I'm well positioned to deliver that to the next generation.
You've been outspoken about what you call the climate cult. So
Yes.
is your position that climate change is a belief system and not a phenomenon supported by data or science?
So man-made climate change appears to be real. However, I think there is no evidence to suggest that it is an existential risk to humanity. To the contrary, I think the best way to adapt to any climate change, and climate change is as old as the planet, the best way we adapt to it as human beings is through more usage of fossil fuels, drilling, fracking, even burning coal, and also embracing nuclear energy. And I think there's some inconvenient truths for the climate cult movement, as I call it. First of all, for every 100 people that died in the year 1920, only 2 died today of a climate-related disaster. Why is that? Because of technological advances powered, of all things, by fossil fuels. So I care more about human prosperity, human flourishing. That's what I think we should be measuring, not how much carbon we emit into the atmosphere. And I know that's a controversial thing to say, but I think we can actually unite around that principle, that it shouldn't be our impact on the climate. We should look at what is the climate's impact on the way human beings live their lives, but not just the climate, how human beings can actually flourish. And I favor economic growth over following this really false theory of changing our behavior.
So under a Ramaswamy administration, green energy would have to survive or fail based on the market, not anything from you.
That's exactly right. And thank you. I'm not against green energy. I just think it should be left to market forces. Drilling, fracking, burning coal, embracing nuclear, I'm all in favor of those. Wind and solar, I have no problem with either, but they can't be based on subsidies. It has to be because people actually demand it and because they can be provided at reasonable cost without government subsidy.
A lot of your pitch to voters is cutting government spending, even getting rid of a few departments. How do you plan to do that and also invest the resources necessary to improve America's mental health system?
Great question. So, first of all, part of the reason I want to dismantle governmental bureaucracy is because I believe in the Constitution, which says there are 3 branches of government. But really, the 4th branch, the administrative state, is the one that wields the most power today. I think the administrative state is unconstitutional. So I think it is both about restoring our constitutional republic and about unleashing our economy, because that's where cumbersome regulations come from. Now, we have a separate mental health epidemic in this country. We need to deal with that, especially amongst young people. I'm the only candidate talking about potentially banning social media, addictive social media in kids under the age of 16. That's not a foreign principle. If you can't smoke a cigarette by the age of 18 or have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21, I don't think you should be using TikTok at the age of 14 or 15 either. Keep those cell phones out of the classroom. Those are the kinds of direct solutions that I'm actually focused on. We do have a mental health epidemic. We need to focus on it, but I don't think more bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. are actually the way to deliver.
All right, as I like to say, Mr. Ramaswamy, this was the easy part with the town hall and those tough New Hampshire voters await. Thanks for joining us.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Adam.
Coming up after the break, we will join our studio audience with this conversation. Stay with us.